This is Danny Flexen here for SecondsOut. Delighted to be joined by top trainer Joe Gallagher. Joe, how you doing?
Yeah, okay. Cheers, thanks, Danny. Getting over the jet lag from Japan, but yeah, okay, mate.
Yeah, I mean, 2022 isn't ending the way you'd probably like it to, given the defeat by Paul Butler, as gallant as it was. But the year as a whole, correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be a pretty good one for you and your gym.
Yeah, no, it was a very good year. If you look at what everybody achieved this year, it was really a number of fighters that had points to prove, had comebacks, and listen, when you sit down at the end of the year and there's been 4 world titles, a ring belt, a British, a Commonwealth, an Intercontinental, and it's not a bad haul, is it? For a year, but like you say, it's been a long year. It's been a tough year. It's we've seen people go, and we've seen people arrive on the scene as well. And this time last year, we were getting ready for Macaulay McGowan for his fight with Sergio Martinez in January, and yeah, who would have thought we would be sitting here now with Natasha in the position she is. Obviously, Paul just been in an undisputed fight. Mark Heffron on fire. And yeah, no, it's been a good year.
You talked about them having a point to prove, and we'll talk about them individually in a minute. But do you feel you had a point to prove, or the gym had a point to prove, rather than just the fighters?
Yeah, I'd say so, Danny. I'm not going to say I didn't, but yeah, I felt there was a point to prove. There was a lot being said behind closed doors, and as you know, everything gets out and around in boxing. And I just thought people were writing off the fight, some of the fighters that I've just said. Listen, it was unfortunate that obviously Callum Johnson, he was getting ready for Joe Smith this time last year, and he would have been a world champion, no, without a shadow of a doubt. But the year hasn't turned out in the way that he thought it would do. But there was people like him, Natasha, Mark, Paul Butler, that were just writing him off, really, sort of like kids that were kicked to the curb with nothing. And that's why to see them come back and to have put the energy and the time and the effort into them, and them wanting it as bad as I'm wanting it showed good stuff. And then for the talent that's coming through, Clark Smith, Callum Thompson, Marcus Morrison was involved in a shootout with Denzel Bentley, and you've seen how well Denzel went on and did for the world title. Jose Burton at cruiserweight, Charlie Edwards is improving, Sean Yaxley 12-0 now. So the gym is in a good place with prospects, with kids about to break into the title scene, and people that are top of the game as well. So there's a good balance in the gymnasium.
You mentioned Mark Heffron there. He looked as good as he ever has in beating Lennox Clark for the British title at the third time of asking for him as well, of course. What's been the key to his resurgence?
I think, listen, I think it was just a bit of self-belief, just getting Mark back to doing what he does best, not overthinking things, and trusting the process. Like I said, we turned pro together, I think it was 10, 11 years ago, and he's been here, there, and everywhere. And eventually we've come back together now, and he's been places, and he's always got into patterns of, oh, he always does this, or he always does this, and he always does this. And I'm not interested in what you've always done in the past. And this is what we do here. And I think him having the belief and going through with Lennox Clark, I just think he broke the ceiling there. He lifted a load of weights off his shoulders, and he's a hot fighter at the moment. I put a post out today. He's a hot fighter. 3 fights, 3 wins, 3 knockouts, 3 titles last year, and he's one of the in-form hot fighters in British boxing at the moment. And I'm really looking forward to him to push on to possibly world honours in 2023.
I mean, what is the next kind of step for him? I mean, looking at the scene at the moment, I would suggest maybe he's a Zach Parker could be a decent fight for him. Both similar promoter, Frank Warren, obviously. Parker just come off that defeat to Ryder, looking to get back up there. That's kind of fringe world level fight.
Yeah, it could be. But listen, I'd like Mark to move on from the domestic scene, fight an American, fight one of them fringe fighters. Do you know what I mean? Maybe a Mosley or somebody like that, and to test himself against them fighters and put him in a position to fight for a world title. So yeah, that's where we are with Mark. We're in the Mark Heffron business, and like I say, I'm sure Frank will deliver what's best for Mark next year.
Now, we saw Paul Butler become a 2-time world bantamweight champion this year. Great stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of messing about with, the fighter being ruled out of the fight and then him having to fight a dangerous substitute at relatively short notice as well. Just how much credit should he receive, Paul, for dealing with all that as well as winning the fight?
Yeah, 100%. I think Paul Butler, in my opinion, is one of the most talented all-round fighters British boxing's got. I thought his performance was one of the best performances in a boxing ring, in a British ring this year, against Natasha Jonas, who's a kid that had beaten Casamora. Paul Butler went into that fight as an underdog. Mark Heffron went into his fight with Lennox Clark as an underdog. Both not picked to win by Boxing News and either. And they both went in, and that's what makes it sweeter when you go in there and everybody's writing you off. And you go in there and it makes it just a little bit sweeter. And I think Paul Butler's winning Liverpool. I don't think no one ever expected Paul to put a performance like that. And he did really well. And like I say, he's a 2-time world champion. And he put himself in position for the undisputed with Inoue. And listen, I thought Paul acquitted himself very well against Inoue. I was really disappointed with... Listen, the general public can have an opinion, but fellow professionals in the sport... people getting involved in conversations, this under and over, it'll be done under 2 rounds, it won't go over 2 rounds, that type of stuff. And we're talking about Paul Butler, a 2-time world champion who's been involved in the sport of boxing. He's always fought the best, Tete Rodriguez in UA, and he's been involved since the age of 10. And it's like, to just dismiss him like that was so bad. So, listen, like the commentary said, we had Inoue to a position where we would wanted him in the fight in round 7, coming forward, committing, taking chances. But when you're in the ring there, sometimes, as Paul said, he has a presence and he cuts the ring off, that, and he's fast, that it doesn't allow you to get them shots off. But listen, he went 11 rounds, didn't disgrace himself. And like we say, he might have another go at it in 2023 if he knew if he vacates them belts. But I thought Paul Butler, it was a shame. There was no television. There was a shame. There was no YouTube channels came up to his public workout in Bolton. I just thought that showed a lack of disrespect, that everyone was too busy chasing women around in bikinis at weigh-ins than to deal with Paul Butler getting an undisputed world title fight, which was history making. So yeah, but listen, Paul's had a very good year.
Yeah, I apologise on behalf of the YouTube community for that one. I mean, I'm sure we weren't the only ones who missed the workout, but yeah, I mean, for us, it wasn't about bikinis or anything of the like, but I just don't think we had someone available on that day in the area. We used Jamal, obviously, up in the northwest, and I think he was working that day. But apologise and try not to let it happen again.
But Undisputed only comes around once in a time, and that was a history-making fight in a British fighter. And yeah, it's. I'm sure if there was anyone else, there'd be plenty of people there.
Well, I can only hold my hands up and obviously explain.
Yeah, no, listen, it's all right.
Natasha Jonas obviously had an outstanding year for us at Seconds Out. For me personally, she's the British Fighter of the Year, regardless of gender. How do you kind of sum up her year, specifically given what she's gone through in the past and the world title shots that didn't go her way by the narrowest of margins?
Yeah, Natasha, well, listen, she's at the BBC Sports Person of the Year Awards tonight, and she should be nominated. If you can't, Natasha ticked all boxes this year. She was 38. She had 2 opportunities, hadn't got the decision. She went in at the beginning of the year, 3rd time of Eskin, pressure on, 20,000, chief support, Brooke Khan, and she delivered in fantastic fashion. And then obviously fast forward, we go and fight in Liverpool. She had the homecoming, and she won the WBC world title there. 10 weeks later, she's fighting the #1, Marie Dicker, for the IBF and the ring belt. And for 3 world titles, 2 within 10 weeks, 3 within 9 months, and the ring belt. It's just, I'll see Tasha later, but it's just like, did this year really happen? It's just flown by. And I think Natasha did an interview a year ago, and I'm not sure who it was with, but she said, come back in a year's time and tell me if I've made the right decision. Because at the time, she just signed with Boxer. And yeah, now a year later, listen, look at the position she's in. 38 years of age, 3-time world champion, or holds 3 world titles, the ring belt, and a huge inspiration. She's been a fantastic ambassador for British boxing, amateur and professional, with the 2012 Olympics. And for her, maybe she was most probably would have been in the nominees if it was a top 10 or top 12. Listen, everybody that's be there in the nominations tonight in the 6 deserve it. This Ronnie Sullivan, Beth Mead, everybody, you can't knock it. It's just that everyone feels that their athlete, their fighter, their sports person should be on there. And because of Natasha's achievements, because it was her last chance, there was huge pressure on in February, and she's came and she's delivered. And not only that, though, Natasha does have a personality. Yeah. It is called the Sports Personality of the Year award, and we've seen some in the past win it without a personality. But Tasha does have a personality, so yeah, listen, she's going there tonight, her and Paul Butler, and yeah, I've said to them, enjoy the experience, and it's great to be invited, and yeah, so enjoy it.
And as you say, 3 world titles in 9 months, also outside her natural weight class, and they've not been particularly close fights. She's clearly defeating these world-class operators. Do you think she's had the credit she deserves? Because it's a monumental thing she's done this year.
No, I don't sound like I'm the typical Gallagher whinging. I've just had a whinge about Butler, but it's like anything, Danny. No one has an appetite to talk about the fighter's success out of Gallagher's gym, and no one wants an appetite to talk about the success Gallagher's gym has. That's just the way it is. But like I say, Natasha, she's got to sit there this year under the Christmas tree with 3 world titles, a ring belt, and she's got plenty of options. Like you say, her win over Namis was a fantastic win. Bergout was a very good fighter, and she did well to beat her. And then Maria Decker, who's, listen, she went the distance with Clarissa Shields in Detroit, and was stubborn and tough and game, and she was in Natasha. And she was a naturally bigger girl, and everyone started getting worried. In fact, I think it was round 5 or 6, she started to make a strength and tell a little bit of Natasha, but Natasha regrouped, come back, and she had a fantastic win. And I think, as you say, maybe another female, if she was somebody else, she may get the plaudits. But listen, Natasha's done fantastically well, and I think it's a year. If Natasha Jonas can't get nominated, or Natasha Jonas can't get a Services for Boxing award, whether that be an MBE, CB, OBE, anything this year, that's a crying shame. That, do you know what I mean? For the girl that I gave her the moniker Miss GB, because she, after the Olympics, she always used to come into the gym with all the GB stuff on all the time, and the tracksuit still. She was like 4-0 as a pro, still walking on with GB kit on her. So brilliant. That's why we always say, always Miss GB. So yeah, listen, I wanted to enjoy Christmas. She's just been to Japan, watching Paul out there. And like I say, I'll see you later on tonight, and we'll see what 2023 has for her.
Well, on that note, we've seen a lot of talk on social media in the last couple of weeks with Terri Harper's team talking about a rematch. And I saw a quote, I don't know if it's from Steffi or from Terri, saying, we can't imagine there'll be another bigger fight out there for Tasha. Then I saw a quote from Clarissa Shields saying that she's quite keen to come back to the UK to fight Tasha, which for me is a bigger fight. What's the inside track on all this?
No, listen, it's they were very public in going out saying they've put a high end 6-figure purse to Natasha Jonas. So the offer that came in the table wasn't a high end 6-figure. It wasn't even half. It wasn't even a third. So when they're coming out and doing interviews, just basically telling lies, how can you do business or talk like that? So what would you class a high end 6-figure purse, Danny?
Well, I'd say like 700 or more thousand.
There you go. We're not even knowing it. We're not even half. Do you know what I mean? So when they're coming out talking nonsense like that, trying to make us out like and push us into something, that's like it. And like you say, there's big fights out there for Natasha. Natasha wants to fight in Vegas or New York, so the Clarissa Shields one ticks boxes. Katie Taylor, Tasha still would like to do that. She's after her opponent for Croke Park. That's a good fight, whether it be at Croke Park or Anfield is there. Jessica McCaskill is another one as well. So, yeah, Natasha's got options. and we'll sit down and we'll see which is the best way forward. Cecilia Brackhouse has just come back on 4-1 as well. So yeah, there's plenty of options for Natasha Jonas. Don't worry about that.
And we know she can move down the weight still, but because she's holding 3 world titles at 154, if she moved down, would she give up some of that leverage? Is it better financially to stay at 154?
Yeah, I think so. Like you said there, I think the Clarissa Shields fight, I think that's the big fight, the biggest fight. And I know there's talk about a rematch activated, but Clarissa is more than willing to come to the UK. We're more than willing to go to America. I think that would be the fight that will happen. I think Clarissa wants to come back for her 154 titles. And obviously the massive viewing figures it had over here last time with Clarissa, I think it was 2 million, they said. And with Natasha's profile, I think that'll be a huge fight. I think Savannah personally would have to come back with a win of sorts or anything else. I don't think she personally should go straight back in with Clarissa. I think she needs to have a fight, I'd say. And that's just my opinion. So that most probably leaves the door open for Clarissa and Natasha to be made.
From your own perspective, how does the job satisfaction now and this year compare to the era when you had, Crawler, Quigg, the Smiths, and so
on? I think I've always said when people say what's your best moment, it's very hard because it's hard. Everyone has their own story, and it means just as much, all of them. But I feel more so this year with the kids. Because they were written off at the beginning of the year. No one gave him anything. Natasha wasn't expected to do anything. They all thought she was past it, too old, had a moment. Paul Butler, no one expected Paul to do what he did, or Mark Heffron. So it's the fact, and it's just a shame with Callum Johnson, but it's just the fact that these people that they thought they're finished and done, they didn't, they come back and they proved everyone wrong. They went into fights that they weren't the favourites. They were the underdogs at the bookies and with trade papers, and they pulled them off. So I think it's one of the best, most satisfying years because of them going in as underdogs and not everyone giving them that chance. Even for Marcus Morrison, Denzel Bentley. Listen, one round, we nearly had it. We nearly had it, and it was an entertaining shootout for as long as it lasted. And he didn't discredit himself anyway, if you look at the way that Denzel went on and challenged for his world title fight. And like we say, coming through, Sean Yaxley now, he's had 3 fights this year, 12-0. He's doing really well. McCauley was unfortunate with Sergio at the beginning of the year, but he's come back a couple of wins. Obviously, Callum Thompson, a phenomenal talent, 5-0. He's got to be a busier next year. Clark Smith, obviously the UK Canelo or whatever you want to do, he's 3-0. And he is someone that I really have high hopes for. He's someone that we're not got to rush. He's got to learn the trade. And I liken him to a Richard Williams. He's got to be very nice and sound and compact and complete all around. When he has to walk through the door, he'll be well prepared. But I'm really excited with them type of kids. And obviously Charlie Edwards in the gym all the time, improving, maturing. And I think he's got to have a fantastic 2023, Charlie Edwards.
So just on the back of that then, if you could have kind of 3 wishes, if you like, sorry to be corny, for 2023, what would they be?
What would there be? It's very hard. It's I don't know. I don't think Natasha could wish for any more than what she's achieved. She's become the #1 Ring Magazine champion. It'd be great if Paul Butler could get another shot and become a 3-time world champion. Charlie Edwards becomes a world champion. Mark Heffron fights for a world title. Callum Thompson, Clark Smith by the end of the year will be looking at, say, domestic titles. Something like Sean Yaxley gets in amongst the mixed. I'm quite happy with where the stable is and where it's going, and there's a change, there's an evolution. As you say, people know the gym for years for Quigg, Crawler, Smiths, but this year it's been about Heffron, Jonas, Butler, Smith, Clark Smith, Callum Thompson, Sean Yaxley, McCauley, McGowan. It's evolving, and listen, what a fantastic year when you look at the people always say hashtag strap season. What a year for what Natasha and Paul's done. And like I say, I will be really. I wish that Natasha gets her the recognition that she deserves, whether by the trade paper at the awards or by the government for contribution and what she's done for female boxing in this country.
Great stuff. Joe, wish you a very Merry Christmas, and yeah, look forward to catching up again in the new year.
Yeah, cheers, Danny. Thanks very much, mate.
Take care, mate. Speak soon.
Ciao, mate.